The Federation has sent its main fleet into the Delta Quadrant to attack the Borg. Our Klingon warriors have been left behind to babysit the Alpha Quadrant along with the Federation's remaining ships. The Federation wanted us to be peacekeepers, but I am no man of peace. Nor, it turns out, are the Cardassians. They secretly constructed a massive fleet. We don't know how they kept it secret. Someone must have helped them hide it. Then, as the Federation Reserve Fleet lay docked in the Pearl Nebula, the rebuilt Cardassian forces launched a surprise attack. They laid waste to the unsuspecting Federation cruisers, battleships, destroyers, and star bases. Few ships survived. Fewer still ready for combat. Why does the Federation expect everyone to be as peaceful as they? Are they completely without guile? Or is it just lack of common sense? Perhaps they died a warrior's death, but to be caught sleeping? Inexcusable. Now we Klingons must quash this Cardassian uprising and show the Federation that peace is maintained only with the sharp edge of a battler. A peacekeeper. We have a saying. Sofad io do quo. To thy own self be true.
Happy New Year everyone, and welcome back to Star Trek Armada 2. I hope you had a good Christmas and New Year. And we're going to start the new year out with the Klingons. To bring you up to date on the story, most of the Federation fleet is now trapped in the Delta Quadrant, despite the fact they evacuated everybody except for like the Enterprise and its support ships, so I don't understand how the entire Federation fleet's been caught there. And to add insult to injury, somehow the Cardassians, despite being watched like a hawk 24/7, have managed to reconstruct an absolutely enormous fleet, and apparently the Federation decided to dry dock all its ships in one place, and the Cardassians just went and splattered them, so now it's time for the Klingons to take over for a bit.
Well done. You have recovered the Federation ships. Now, let's build some real warships of our own Klingon design.
You know what, I'm actually not going to do that, and the reason for that is that we've been given a Federation's shipyard here, which is nice. I like Federation shipyards, but the secondary reason is we can build Akira-class vessels, which, while they're equivalent of the Vorcha-class attack cruiser, which we can also build in this mission, we can build the Federation special weapons. We can give the Akira the chain reaction pulsar, and we cannot give the Vorcha class attack cruiser its special weapon, which is the Polaron torpedo, and in fact we can't do that for a couple of missions. So really, I'm just going to do what I have to do with the Klingons, and I am going to use the Federation ships in this mission. Now, unfortunately, we are limited to Akira class or Vorcha class ships and below in this mission, so we can't just build a big fleet of advanced ships and go stomping in. So this is going to require a lot of medium class ships. I'm going to say 50 is probably going to be about right. According to the mission objectives, you don't have to go ahead and destroy the Cardassian base in this mission. All you really need to do is take back that planet. But I'm role-playing as the Klingon, so that means smash everything in sight. You will have noticed the Cardassians just turn up cloaked there. That's another sort of rewrite of the canon here. Yes, the Cardassians had cloaking devices in the episode where they attacked the Dominion in the Delta Quadrant, but that was because they were allied with the Romulans at the time. And during the Dominion War, the Cardassians showed no sign of using cloaking technology. However, that has been completely rewritten at this point, and now the Cardassians have access to cloaking technology. So they're basically a copy-paste of the Romulans, but a little bit better at fighting.
Station construction has
One thing that's great here about losing the ship, like I did earlier, they're dragging it straight through the main Cardassian base, so I'm able to see what's going on. At least they've given me an idea of what to do here. I've reinforced the planet Zarush here, and I'm building a planetary shield. That's because the Cardassians are going to attack that planet, and since the battleships are the only things that can attack planets, so that'll be heavy cruiser class ships, that means that I'm going to face heavy cruiser class ships early, so therefore I don't have any desire to confront them head on if I can avoid it. So I want the planet to be able to survive at least some kind of bombardment. I'm continuing to build Akira class ships here, and let's go ahead. The Cardassians do have a couple of sensor turrets inside my territory, so we're going to have to deal with those. One thing that you really must do in this mission, and hello, yeah, cloaking in this game is handled a lot better than it was in Star Trek Armada 1. The computer actually uses it for one thing, and can be pretty devastating with it if you're not prepared for it. So a lot of things take precedence in this mission. Those mainly being things like you have to have tachyon detection grid against the Cardassians because of their cloaking devices, and in this mission you have to protect that trading station at the top, because at some point in the missions you're going to have an overflow of one type of mineral and you're going to have a shortage of another, and the Klingons, as opposed to the Federation, the Klingons use latinum an awful lot. So because of that, we are given two fairly large latinum nebulas here, so that's not a problem. But like all the research centres use latinum, everything that is built uses latinum, planetary shields use latinum. They really are a heavy. Whereas the Federation just use it strictly as an exchange mechanism, the Klingons use it very much as a building resource, so they can be quite difficult. Meanwhile, a Galore and a Keldon have just decided to sit in my base with no shields, which is nice of them. So there has been a request that I try and capture some ships, so I'm going to take the Keldon because it's more advanced, and because I can't micromanage well enough to stop my ships from shooting. Unfortunately, the transport mechanics in this game are really weird. For some reason, only one ship decided that it wanted to transport there, but now that they're behaving themselves, I now have a nice new Keldon class ship for the fleet. The Keldon class ship in this game is a lot stronger than it is in any other form of the canon. It has a cloaking device, it has a pretty nasty special weapon when it's used, but we never get a chance to use it, and it's also just in raw shield and weapons firepower, pretty equivalent to a Sovereign class ship, which, as you'll know if you've read any of the canon, seen any of the films, seen any of the movies, even played any of the other games, is total rubbish. 3 Keldon class ships might put up a fight for a Sovereign class vessel, but anything less than that is just asking to get stomped. So I don't quite know where they were coming from with this, but they had to have the Cardassians as a threat in one form or another, so they had to obviously make their battleship a certain strength. If they just made it a weakling, it wouldn't really help. Now, as opposed to the Federation, the Klingons are very much attack oriented. You'll find that many of the Federation special weapons were based around shields and protecting the ships, whereas in this game as the Klingons, it's basically about causing as much damage and destruction as possible. So I'll be following that line for most of the missions. I have a slight complaint about the Klingon missions, that they are fairly similar for the most part, and it's really to be honest, that's really a complaint about strategy games on the whole. You can ask for a lot of missions, and you can certainly have them, but eventually you can kind of run out of ideas. And we have a Galore and a Keldon class here running into my starbase, and they are attacking my planet. As you can see, the planetary shield's holding them off somewhat at the moment, but I'm going to have to use my 2 battleships here to take on this Keldon, because it's managed to stay clear of my starbase due to my awful positioning, but never mind. And there's Martok's ion cannon, so it's just collapsed the shields of that Keldon in one shot and almost destroyed it. The ion cannon in this game is absurdly powerful. It keeps all its power from the previous game, or pretty much all of it anyway. And since ships in this game are made completely of paper, as I've discussed before, it is just disgustingly powerful when used on a single target. Coming in from the right hand side, you'll see the Cardassian Leggett class cruiser. You will come to hate these ships. As you can see, it's the Cardassian equivalent of the steam runner, but instead of firing one artillery torpedo or tricobalt torpedo, whatever you want to call it, it's a long-range artillery torpedo. It decides to fire 2 of them. So obviously a group of half a dozen, 3 or 4 even, can cause major damage, and a group of half a dozen of them can level a starbase in not an overly large amount of time. I'm just going to put a few more ships mining this Latinum Nebula, because obviously when you've got a trading station, and the Klingons do mine Latinum anyway, you want to have as much as possible in your bank. So I can always buy metal. Because I was stupid enough early in the game not to build a metal mining facility on the planet down at the bottom of the level, I am running a tad short on metal, so I'm having to use Latinum and dilithium to balance myself out. Here come the Cardassians again. They're not really a huge threat. They're not going to attack in large numbers. In later missions, the Cardassians do attack in pretty large numbers, and they use a lot of their special weapon ships and artillery ships as well, so straight up static defences don't really work too well against them. You will have noticed that once again 1 iron cannon shot was pretty much enough to obliterate a Keldon. So Martok's Natevar is severely overpowered in this game. I try and take over that Keldon but fail miserably, so I'm going to just go back and repair. I've been cranking out Akira class ships all the time here, but I'm going to create a colony ship because I just want to colonise planets when I see them. You'll notice I've got a massive crew reserve, so I'm not really going to run short at any point there. Keldon class ships seem to have a slight weakness on that behalf, that their shields are damaged really easily, and obviously when a ship's shields drop it's completely defenceless. But I'm just going to take over this Class L planet, and I have managed to limp a construction ship round here, as you can see, in order to get a metal mining facility down, but that was pretty slow on my behalf, and I should have done a lot better. Spot the deliberate mistake, as I've accidentally added a construction ship here to Group 3 rather than that fine Lakera, but never mind, I will fix that. And we are going to go after the Cardassian base now. I could go ploughing through the Red Nebula, which the Cardassians come through, but that would just walk me into a couple of star bases, and I would have no shields, so it'd be a pretty terrible idea. These sort of medium strength ships are already bad enough without running them in with no shields. But anyway, the time has come, and we're going to go and attack the Cardassians.
A Klingon can die but once. We've entered a dangerous nebula. A battle has begun.
I've turned off the chain reaction pulsars from the Akiras because I want to use them directly. I certainly don't want them all firing at exactly the same time. That would be really stupid because they just won't hit anything. And really 50 Akiras is going to be enough to take on pretty much anything. So I certainly don't want all 3 groups firing at the same time. 1 will be more than enough. That's a lot of ships. And this is really what the Cardassian defence is made of. Once we get up there, there's just a lot of really small ships, and this is a perfect spot to use the pulsar. and it'll just ricochet off just about everything and you'll just see Cardassian ships begin to completely evaporate under the firepower. Galores tend to do that an awful lot, try and warp away and save themselves, and they generally don't get away fast enough, they just end up dying. And yeah, Leggett class ships trying to ping me from outside weapons range, which is irritating, so I'm going to destroy it.
We have a new ship for the fleet.
I think that's a colony ship that just went over my head. Either way, I think it's dead now, and it doesn't really matter because it's not integral to the mission. But here we go, just waltzing into the Cardassian base. I'm keeping us at impulse because there's a really large gravity well in this area, and I don't want to split my fleet up because I'm going to need the concentrated firepower. Just taking out as many resource buildings as I can for the moment. Phaser turrets are going to damage my ships quite hard, but one group of ships is going to be enough to take one of those down without any serious loss. And here's another group of small Cardassian ships which aren't really going to bother me that much, and there goes another chain reaction pulsar which is going to take out pretty much anything in the vicinity. I love the way it's chasing those small ships. Get back here. Anyway, let's destroy the shipyard so that we can make sure there's no reinforcements. That's an advanced shipyard on the left and a trading station on the right, so I want them both down. Another small group of irrelevant ships coming in here. And soon you'll see why I want all these Akira class ships. That's because the computer gets kind of rough with its defences at this point. Let's get rid of this shipyard. I don't want any reinforcements. There we go. No Keldon class reinforcements anyway. And yep, there's a starbase. But it's not just one starbase. No. I wouldn't need 50 ships if that was the case. It's not one starbase, it's two starbases and torpedo turrets. So enjoy this absolute carnage.
Ready for battle. Destroy the cowards. For Kalis! A Klingon can die but once. A battle has begun. A Klingon can die but once. A Klingon can die but once. Ready for battle. A Klingon can die but once.
Well, that was an enormous mess, but it looks like we've achieved the objective that we wanted to anyway.
Reinforcements are coming.
But if you can see how badly this starbase is damaged, there's no way it's worth keeping it around. It's going to cost me too much, and I already have pretty much won the mission, so I'm just going to disassemble it for the metal and dilithium. As I've said before, this is not a necessary thing for us to do. We don't have to take out the Cardassian base, but it does make our life a little bit easier once it's done. As you can see from that initial force of 48 Akira class starships, I am left with 12. Make that 11. So yes, that force that I used was absolutely 100% necessary. And it's not as if I'm not known for using excessive force anyway. Not that they've got anything left to build with, but the shipyard I'll take out, and we can just move Martok and my Keldon round there, and we can begin the process of reclaiming this planet.
Plot a new course.
These ships are strong enough to survive passage through that red nebula, so we'll just leave them, let them come through rather than taking them all the way around the outside.
Destroy the cowards.
And we'll kill the Ferengi starship anyway while I'm here.
War is good for business.
As you can see, the Cardassians had a fairly rooted area there. 3 dilithium moons, an M-class planet and a massive Latinum nebula. So I'm not too sure the game actually wants you to attack the Cardassian base. They'd rather you take the easy way out, but I'm not really the type to take an easy way out. And considering this planet has a planetary shield and the Cardassians can reinforce, I think that it's just more expedient to take the base out. Right, here we go. Since we're playing as the Klingons, the whole idea of mass planetary bombardment and taking out all the civilians on the planet is perfectly alright. One thing you will notice there, the colony ship is armed with a phaser, so is the construction ship. The Klingons have this as one of their unique traits. Everything must have weapons. Anyway, I'll let you watch the destruction of Venoshan and its subsequent recolonisation. And welcome to 2012 and the Klingons, and I will see you again next time.
Ready to colonize. A battle has begun. For our people, we claim this world.
Till Stovokor! For the Empire!
For our people.
Zarush is ours, and Venoshan will withstand any assault. I must thank the Cardassians. Now we have a war to be proud of.